Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Elash Apartment Connection, where we bring people together and share the tips, tools, and insights that helps you become a successful apartment investor and take back your time so you can do what you want and reconnect with the special people in your life. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you being here. The Elash mission is to enhance lives, and one of the ways we do that is by offering completely passive investments that provide income and grow your wealth, which allows busy people like you to start freeing your time. Investing in apartments can be scary, though, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So stick around as we jump through the details. Tonight, we're talking about the rising popularity of renting. Joining us this evening is Jeff Gongwer. Jeff is a seasoned broker and owner with over 65 agents across two top-producing ReMax locations in Central Ohio, with years of experience spanning commercial real estate, residential, land development, and business consulting. Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Would you like to start by telling us a little bit about how you got started and what you're working on now?
That's a long story. I got started in real estate in 1992. I answered a ad. I actually kind of went away prior to that to do kind of a change in my life, and saw an opportunity that came about in a ad in the Columbus Dispatch. And I had a background in sales, marketing, and strong in management and those kind of things too, with a Fortune 100 company, other companies prior to that. So they just wanted me to come in and help set up real estate offices and work with the current franchisees that we had in about 2/3 of the state of Ohio. And that's what I got started with ReMax International. And then did that for about 4 years, set up about 35 offices with them, traveled all over the United States, helped grow ReMax from about 30,000 agents to 50, 60,000 during that time frame. So it was quite a blitz for me, and we did a lot in Columbus too. And then I got my license in 1996 and started selling real estate then, and came on with one of our franchisees at the time. They were going to move me from Columbus to St. Louis, and then St. Louis on to Denver, Colorado. So I decided to get my license. I always wanted to own my own business. And so then I bought into a franchise in 1996 and started working with this guy who had a franchise, and I bought into another one in 1999. So been around a little bit, been doing selling real estate since 1996 overall.
Awesome. That sounds like a crazy experience.
Yeah, it's been a ride and a half. Yeah, and it's taken me to a lot of different things, a lot of cool things too as well, including the new stuff that I've been working on the last couple, 2.5, 3 years in development more. So it's pretty neat.
Can you elaborate more on what those last 3 years have been looking like?
I saw the challenge that we have even today, about 5 and 6 years ago at least, that the demand for home ownership became greater than the amount of inventory that we had. So I had most of my sales that I had from 96 up until 2000 and probably 8 or 9 was definitely new construction, lot sales, land development, those kind of things. And I did a lot of new construction in that process. So we were trying to keep up the demand back then, but the existing houses just weren't coming on the market, and they still aren't even today. We're still so far behind in Central Ohio with a tremendous amount of growth of people coming here. It's a great place to live, and it was set up, by a lot of people too prior to me learning how this business is going. But the development side was really something that I wanted to learn more about and how to do it. And I prayed about it, and got connected with a great group of guys, Highland Real Estate, that's out of Columbus, who's been doing it for about 25 years. And I've been working with them the last 2.5 to 3 years, help them work on people and projects, mostly trying to find land for them to get developed, and also to find investors to invest in the projects that they are going to put together. And they're an excellent group of people that do all the entitlement stuff is what they do. They did a lot of background in pipe and pavement prior to that, have built a lot of things. Their recent probably accomplishment was probably Jerome Village, about 1,800 acres. They finished up that project just recently, and have a number of different other projects around the Ohio area. So, yep.
Wow, that's exciting, especially here in Central Ohio. We love it.
Yeah, we need more of it. And then there's other parts that we are finding that we're going outside of Central Ohio to find other pieces of land between 30 acres of land up to like 300 or 400 acres to
Wow.
develop a planned urban developments is what we're
Mhm.
trying to work on. And so these guys have been able to kind of take me under their wing and teach me quite a lot about stuff that I kind of knew, but learn more about it. In my brokerage, we had done property management for a number of years. I had 4 or 5 agents that had hundreds of units. And so I got pretty familiar with all of that, but it also took us in a lot of different directions. This was more of something I really enjoy to be a part of with these guys.
Very cool. Very cool. So tonight's topic is kind of jumping into the debate of renting versus buying. So with your experience, kind of, you want to give us a little bit of an introduction into that debate and kind of which way things are leaning?
Well, I would say for right now, we're still in the same part that I saw 5, 6, 7 years ago, where the demand was so high, more people are coming in, and land wasn't getting developed fast enough, and it still isn't today. We are behind between 15,000 homes to give you on the home side of it per year. We're down by 6 years of that. That's about 90,000 homes that should have been developed over the last 6 years of time that have not been done. So you've got a number of builders kind of doing whatever they can do to build what they need. But as you look at the amount of people still coming to Columbus, or also what we're seeing too, is many people kind of moving around in generations. So the baby boomers are downsizing, they're getting out of Columbus, or they're having a place here and then they're moving someplace else as well. And you have a tremendous amount of people trying to move up, going from a first-time home buyer to a mid-range or larger. And the problem is we don't have enough confidence yet in having all of those kind of, I would say, routes off of the interstate. Everybody right now is kind of stuck on the interstate and can't get off the exit ramps. And that's where we sit. And with the interest rates rising is so much that they have in such a short period of time, it's really kind of stymied a lot of people on wanting to go forward, especially first-time home buyers right now. And we went from 3% interest rates to 8%, in a matter of it seemed like 6 to 7 months. It was crazy. But over the course of time, it really halted a lot of people on wanting to do stuff, including ones that had money, because they are still sitting on an opportunity that they've got great equity in their properties, but they don't know where to go to. So like my wife and I that moved out of Westerville to Sunbury, we had to find something that made sense. We'd been living in that house for 27 years. So it was time for us to get out. Our kids were gone. Our kids actually moved up towards Sunbury. So that's kind of what we did too, is we want to get into areas where they would be, but also in turn trying to find stuff that was unique enough that we could still enjoy, which had utilities and proximity and those kind of things too as well. So, yep.
Yeah, awesome. So it seems like renting is becoming more and more popular. Would you say that's
Yeah, renting is the first-time home buyer, but whether you like it or not, it's definitely, people are staying in longer into rental opportunities. You've got kids that are coming out of college, trying to find jobs, trying to establish themselves. You don't have a lot of money to put down. They're more into quickness, like it a certain way type of deal. They're not into, hey, I need to come into a property like my wife and I did when we bought our house and put money into it over the course of time. They don't want to do that. They don't have time to do it. It's not in their bailiwick. So they're willing to pay more for it if it's already been done, which opened up a lot of investors to buy homes and fix them up. And now people are buying those. But in some instances too, they're finding out that a lot of those properties weren't done properly. So that's now scaring a lot of people too. They're now trying to decide how they can go back into apartment opportunities for right now and just kind of ride this out until it gets better. And the problem is it's not going to get any better. This is a big steamroll thing. It's going to continue to grow and grow and grow, because you've got a lot going on in central Ohio, but Ohio as a whole has got a lot of job opportunities that have come here. A lot, especially in Cincinnati, Dayton, places like that. Cleveland, not so much, maybe in some other areas like Medina, but everything down in central Ohio and around the ring and greater rings in the future are going to be a part of what the growth is for Columbus and central Ohio. So definitely. And same thing with Cincinnati's the same thing. They're coming out going north. Dayton's going farther, east, and Columbus is literally trying to grow from all aspects, whether it's north, south, east, or west. Doesn't really matter. Yep.
Wow.
So renting's your only choice if you want to try to find a house right now. It's not possible. Yeah. And a lot of those people too, for the most part, really don't have the patience is probably the word to go with what it takes and stay long enough in a job and a commitment to be there for 2, 3, 4 years. So that's why you have this constant turn of people staying in apartments for 2, 3 years. They're out, they're finding the next apartment complex they go to until they can finally save enough money to then hopefully buy a house. So then you have the bank guys, which I'm on an advisory board for a small community bank called Middlefield. And so I've learned a lot about the banking industry for the last 7 to 8 years, which has helped me understand. And they do a lot of commercial business. So I've been able to kind of understand a lot of that business along with the guys that do land development, and kind of put that stuff together a little bit and kind of see with what's happening, how it affects us, for me in our world of ReMax and the residential side of it too, as well. So, yep.
Yeah. So even like the supply is down. So that's just going to make it even harder for people who want to buy a home. So even renters in Columbus and Central Ohio, they're going to be struggling to find a place even just to rent.
Yeah, that is a huge opportunity for real estate agents to work with people that are in apartment complexes to move into houses, but we have to find more choices. So they are now leaning more towards new construction is their next step. Occasionally they'll find an existing house and wade this out and do the patience that they want to do. Sometimes, which is what we're seeing over the last probably 3 years, is grandma and grandpa giving them the money for the down payment or buying the house for them, and then they rent it back or they pay it back to the kids. So, and even mom and dad doing the same thing too, because they want them to get into home ownership if they can. So they're structuring things a lot differently than you would imagine. But, apartment rents have continued to rise because, again, the demand is larger than what the supply is. And we need more of all of this. It's not like could go this route or the other route. We're all in the same boat trying to paddle right now. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'd say, as people in the real estate business, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Well, I've been in it for a long time, and I can't see how much more brighter it's going to be, but it keeps getting better and better and better. And agents that come to us, that want to get in this business, it's the same kind of thing for them. They're trying to figure out how they can, get established and get going. And we spend a lot of time trying to help them understand this process, what it takes. So it's not easy. And a lot of those people, that are in those apartments, they'd love to buy, but, and banks are, a little leery too. They're only allowing, 3%, 5% down isn't a whole lot of money, for the risk tolerance. So they're trying to create other ways to make that happen so they can get into that if they can do it. But we'll see what happens. I mean, to me, I think we've got a good 8 to 10 year stunt of this to keep going on for a good decade. There's a lot of potential to have happen. Yeah.
All right. I got a few questions here.
Okay.
We can jump into. So how have recent market trends influenced your perspective on the rent versus buy debate?
Well, that part with the demands itself, we talk about inventory is a big piece of the puzzle. I think also too, the amount of cash down to do things. When I bought a house, we put down 15 to 20% so we could avoid PMI at that time. So that was a big part of it. And the risk tolerance for a bank wasn't that big. But, today they don't have that kind of money. It wasn't taught to them like it was ingrained in our heads as a kid growing up, to save your money, save your money. You're spending it as fast as they get it. They're just trying to survive. It takes double income in a lot of cases to try to make this kind of stuff work. My wife and I got married as soon as we got out of college, and we were both fortunate to have jobs. I mean, my job was like $12,000 a year is what I made. My wife was a teacher. She made like 14 or 15. And we thought we were just, off to the races. But today you need, in a $350,000 house, which is what an average rough is in Columbus, you need about $110,000 of income to make that happen, just to qualify, to buy, to get into that part. The new construction and builders, that have that in their arena. They're trying to keep those rates low. So they've taken the amount of money and they've raised the price of the house and then offset it against the loan amount. So that way, when the interest rate is normally like 6% that we see for resale stuff, they're running at 3.5 or 3.99 or 4%, just to make it more attractive than going out to the resale market. So, and I don't think that trend is going to stop. I think that's going to continue down that path. We just need more builders to come in and build, which means we need more inventory, which means we need more people to build those properties too. If that can happen and we can start making some things happen in the next 2 to 3 years, it'll help, but it's not going to solve this problem. And that's why renting is still going to be a tremendous asset for at least the next 5 to 6 years, easily. And I don't think Central Ohio, I've lived in the suburbs most of my life, but this ring is getting bigger. Now you're looking at Route 36 and 42 is becoming the next outer ring around 270. So, and then now it's connecting into the Londons of the world, going into Marysville, going into Plain City, which is growing like crazy. You've got Delaware. The town of Delaware itself is just bursting like crazy all over the place. And then it's now connecting all the way into Sunbury, which goes into Johnstown, which goes out to Newark. I mean, hold on tight, baby. Hold on tight. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I can't even tell you how much it's going to be. But our biggest challenge, I think, going forward is going to be utilities, electric and water. And that's a big factor that plays into a lot of this, which is what Highland and I try to find is the utilities and the land that's got utilities relatively close, or they're within that area, that we can snag it from a parcel or two over to then bring it onto that property. And a lot of the smaller towns have had those utilities. It's just people have never decided to live in there, but now they're going to be starting to live in those areas if they choose to or not. So, yep. Hope that helps a little bit.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
What is one property or deal you've passed on, and what led you to that decision?
Sellers not being realistic on the land cost, thinking they could do this versus that. When I first started with Matt and those guys, we were buying land for like $8,000 to $10,000 an acre for just a cornfield or a bean field. And now it's like, 18 to 20 to 22, some of the good stuff is like 22 to 30. I mean, holy mollies. So, and it raised everything up because of that. And that's what's caused the housing to go from a $300,000 house, the Pulte now builds as a first-time home buyer is now almost $500,000 in Sunbury. I mean, that's what it takes. Wow. My daughter just purchased, in Price Ponds, and that's one of the lands that Matt and those guys had secured a long time ago. But that whole project itself was sold to Pulte, and Pulte's still building it out, and they're probably going to finish up in a year and a half and get that whole project done. That's how fast this stuff is going. It's amazing to see. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Pulte is building a whole bunch of houses right near us too.
Yeah, they are. And Rockford's doing their part. I mean, MI's trying to do another project over here in the Galena area. It's going to be awesome when they put that into play. You're seeing a ton of other builders, Arbor Homes now trying to figure out part of Columbus, how they can get a piece of this action. There's a lot of other ones that'll come in. We need the DR Hortons and all these guys to really, step it up big time for us to help us. And that'll help to offset, because the apartment that are there now, those people can move out of there, and then they can bring in more people to want to rent. So it's like, again, it's just a domino game from one to the next, and for us, who've been in it for a number of times, we're now working with second and third generation people as clients. We're looking at the kids. So it's kind of a cool thing. But we've passed on land mostly because of the utility part of it, and really a lot of the townships don't want it in my backyard. So you've got so many hurdles you have to jump through. It's like, I think Matt told me, over 350 steps that they have to take in the right order, and don't be deviating. And then also involve everybody that you can imagine in this process, so it doesn't get referendum and get, kiboshed. So it's a lot of time, and that's what these guys do. They're very, very good at that turnkey entitlement process. They're one of the few that's still left to do it. I hate to say it, but that's what they do. And that's how they work this process. And they're very good at it too, which is helpful. But yeah.
That's insane how much goes into that.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it either. When I started working with these guys, I was like, oh, you can go develop land, no big deal. There's plenty of it around the corner. Oh, no. No. Let me explain to you how this works, Jeff. This is a whole different animal than you just selling resale houses and doing your little thing. And I thought, yeah, okay, let me see. Then he started showing it to me. I was like, wow, you guys are right, man. There's a lot of hurdles to jump, a lot of hurdles. And you got farmers too that want to sell and they'd like to because they don't have any other generations to pass on to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another piece that plays into this too. And then the timing, and it takes 18 months to 2 years to develop land to build a planned urban development. And then that's the future where we have is you have to put a lot of those things in play. You can't just go out and buy 20 acres and put an apartment complex up like you did, years ago when some of these guys have been doing it and they saw this, those opportunities like they did in Columbus, which right now there's apartment complexes on almost every corner. I mean, Lewis Center alone. Good luck, man. You just drive down the road, you can see plenty of them. There's definitely tons.
Evans Farm is not too far from us, and it's growing.
It's growing like crazy. Yeah, I remember when he decided to do all that. I mean, I remember when he tried to pull that sucker off, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, good luck." Because I didn't see how they could do with the roads and everything else. And I look at today and go, wow, his vision was right, man. He's right on the mark.
It's really cool. We go there sometimes for a drink.
Yeah, it's neat. And there'll be more projects like that that'll come out as time goes on. I mean, look at Bridge Park. Who would have thought that could have happened? But those guys came out of the apartment complexes that we built. I mean, the Crawford Hoying and all those guys knew what they were doing. So they took a big risk, but it's been paying off pretty well lately, big time too. And tying it into Dublin and Dublin trying to help out. And now you've got the old part of Dublin kind of tying into the new part. And now Dublin's a whole nother world down there compared to just having Jerome Village that was outside of, Muirfield, which was done by Jack and those guys back in the day.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff, especially.
I'm thrilled.
I love it.
I'm 63 years old, and I wish I was about 30 right now, to be honest with you. I really do, because it's a bright future, definitely.
So you touched on a lot of these already. So when advising your clients to rent over buy, what long-term financial benefits would you consider the most important?
Renting is different. You got to have a plan, you got to have a strategy. You have to look at what is going on in their life, where they are. A lot of times people really can't make that commitment to purchase a house, or they're not ready for it at this point. So apartments are really going to be the best choice for them to start out for a few years. And we try to help them as real estate agents on how to save and what to do and what's it going to take. When's the right time to buy? Even in a given calendar year, there's different intervals that fall in that are better than others. Right now you're starting to see finally rates start to come down. So that's a big piece of the puzzle that helps us too, but we're still trying to get more and more inventory to fit. So for us, it's really trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help educate them through the process and understanding more about their circumstances, and then developing a plan with the buyers, which is what's happened with the changes that have gone on with the National Association of Realtors, lawsuit and stuff.
Yeah.
All that really brought us back into, hey, we need to spend more time with the buyers. We need to find out, are they really a true client, or are they a customer? Are they just tire kicking, or are they really real? And if they're real, what can we do to help put that into play? And then what we're finding is we help them now today, and we find something for them. They're calling us back in 2 or 3 years because the price of the houses have gone up, and even the condos have gone up. And now what they're doing is now they're ready for that next big step, because now they've got commitments with the job that they're at. They want to lay down some roots. They're going to get married. They're going to have kids. They've got everything kind of a lot better than it was. So that's a real piece of this puzzle, is really developing the right plans with the clients. And if you do that well, which I learned a long time ago, it helped me to have that same listing again to sell. So now I had the chance to help them on the buy side. I did a good job then. It made it easier for me on the sales side to then take them to the next step. They had confidence in me with what I did for them too.
It's fantastic. Hey, Kwame, do you have any questions?
Just curious on the development side. I know you said you expect Columbus to kind of develop in every direction, right? It seems like in all the new stuff we've been seeing has been up north. Do you expect that to continue in that direction? Are you up north and out east, or do you kind of see more development coming down
Well,
south?
you got to look at the industry that's coming in and the type of jobs that are being a part of Columbus. It's within about a 20-mile radius outside of that 270 outer belt that's being put in. So you got data centers, you've got industrial stuff being developed. Those are jobs for people that need a place to live. Okay, so what was Columbus when I was a kid? This is the honest God truth. My grandfather and father were in the trucking business. They taught me that everything came in from why Columbus was so valuable, why you had Pennies here and Sears, is you could transport stuff, goods and services within an 8-hour drive to the east, to the west, and go to the Mississippi River. And you could go all the way to the East Coast too, as well, within an 8-hour drive. And you could go almost to the northern part of Florida, as long as there's not hurricanes, which is what we're having right now coming up. Get stuff trucked there too. So what Columbus did is they built the east side and the west side first, okay, as they built 270 around. And then what happened was most of the industrial stuff was in the south part of Columbus, where people were living and moving to the suburbs. So when I was living in Bexley, or if I was in Upper Arlington, now starts to move more outward. And that's why you now have more land to be developed around the next ring of Columbus, which is what they keep talking about. It's not going to be like a 270 deal. They're just going to connect the roads that are currently there. They're going to widen those roads in time because it costs so much to make that happen. So it's a different animal today than it was back then. So I think, quite honestly, Grove City and Groveport and all those areas will continue to get big too. We're now doing land, to give you an idea, that Matt and I are working on. We've got projects in Circleville. We got projects in Ashland. We got projects in Sunbury that you've seen, Mount Vernon, Zanesville. I mean, we're now really going out, to find this stuff. And so what happens is you've got this ring that goes 20 miles out and then another 20. So what's happening now, 40 miles outside of Central Ohio, is now becoming the new growth potential for what's going on long term. So, yep. Does that help?
For sure.
Yeah. That's why I don't think there's one particular area. But what we have found too is we've got to go into areas that have the utilities, that have electric, that have gas, that have water and sewer. And they're there, and there's capacities to make that stuff happen. And they have it in those areas. We can go into Circleville and they're like, please come, just bring us a builder. There's no way you can't go wrong down here. We're like, okay, great. And so that's what we've been working on as an example, one city. And I think, South Bloomfield's taken off. My gosh, all the way up and down 23. You've got, the land being developed all the way down there by the racetrack that used to be, and now Soda Downs and all that is just amazing to see what's going on. So, yep, it's everywhere. It's not just the north end of town anymore. Not anymore. And then you throw in the I call it the three-legged milk stool. And this is a whole nother animal for people to understand, because now you've got Honda doing its thing. You've got the battery factory in Washington Courthouse, and you've got Intel doing stuff out in Licking County. So that three-legged milk stool runs about a 50-mile radius around all three of those puppies, where people are going to live and still commute in there. So there's 3 big rings being developed right around it. Columbus is right in the middle of the mother. It's smack dab in the middle between all 3 of these little babies taking off like crazy. So it's unbelievable for us to see. So no one particular area. It's just jump on in if we can get the stuff developed. But it just takes so long, so many steps to get stuff accomplished. And that's what, even they had was listening to the news tonight. That's what they talked about, trying to speed up this process to get stuff developed quicker and the steps to get it done. And it takes people to approve all that. It's not an easy process. It takes time. Yeah. And the entitlement process takes about 2 years to develop something. So that's what you have to be patient with and understand it. And that's what those guys have taught me too, that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It's a different baby. So we need investors to come in and then put together and meet with these guys so they can walk through this process and show them how the entitlement process goes. And they can get paid money, and their money that they invest in will continue to get paid back. And then when it finally closes, they'll get another big chunk of money that'll happen at that point in time. By that time, they've already secured the builders to build the planned urban development within that process. Hopefully it makes some sense.
Yeah.
Sure. And when you say planned urban development, are you referring to like single family homes, residential neighborhoods, or? Yeah,
it's a combination of multifamily, empty nester condos, and single family houses, all three. Okay. The new thing that's happening right now too, to give you an idea, is a kind of a lease. We used to call it a lease purchase type of deal. And what we had in my real estate world, where they would lease a house for a period of time, and they were in the opportunity, as they put money into the payment every month, it would go towards the purchase of the property. So now that's what's happening with some new builders coming into town the last probably 4 years. We didn't know about it until lately, but they're now doing some rent to own kind of deals. And so what you have is your monthly payment that you put in, okay, can be put down, and then a 5% additional amount of money that you pay goes towards the purchase of that particular home that you're in.
Oh, wow.
Pretty freaking cool. So that's the stuff that Matt and those guys can share with you. Matt and his partners, Scott and Randy Lobig, Scott Mallory and Randy Lobig with it's called Highland Real Estate. They'll share with you all that. But that's what we're trying to find is, that 50 acres to a couple hundred acres to create those planned urban developments. Might have some commercial, but really it's more about the residential living. And that's why, multifamily of, a 2-story, 3-story is still okay to do and be built. You've got townhomes, condos, and stuff like that. You've got a lot of people that have in a planned urban development. You have the kids in one part. You think about that. The parents living in one of the houses, and now the empty nester condos is all in the same community, which is kind of what's happened over in Plain City, in Madison Meadows. I'll give you an example. Hopefully it gives you some ideas. And that's what those guys put together. And they put in a park, and they put in a bike path, and it's a community. It's a community by the time it's all said and done. And so they share that vision, but you have to enroll a lot of people and make sure that happens. Definitely. And investors play a big piece of that puzzle. No doubt about it. Helpful?
Yep.
You guys are learning all kinds of stuff tonight, didn't you?
Right.
I'm just now getting to the party. So
oh, you're at a big party now, Xavier. Watch out. It's pretty cool. So yeah, this is stuff I've been blessed to be around with these guys, and we do a lot by faith and by God, and understanding the property. When we walk the land, we walk the land. I mean, we feel what makes sense. God tells us this makes the right move to be done. We do some research, obviously, and auditing and those kind of things up front, and planning and things, but it's got to feel right. And it can't be many hurdles. And if it is, maybe it's not something that God wants to be developed right now. You got to be patient and understand it might take a little longer time. So hopefully it gives you some ideas too. But that's how these guys work. They've taught me how to do this, and that's the cool part about it. Is I was very fortunate by praying to God about it and wanting to be around some people that could teach me this business. I got to know Matt, and the next thing I knew, man, these guys were all Christ-centered. Their whole company set up that way. They give back to many different things. I mean, I've learned a lot about them and why this is right for who I am and my stance and who I am as a person today. than I was when I first got into this business, in 1996. It's a different animal today. Definitely. And it's something I think long-term is going to be really powerful, really, really powerful to do. And you'd be very excited about being a part of it long-term. But it takes time. And you got to pay attention to details. That's a big part of this. A lot of things play into this factor too, with the details that you have to do. It's what Nick Saban talks about all the time. We know you're a great player. We know you can do all this kind of stuff. Do you really pay attention and you have the details and you're going to do the right things all the time or just part of the time? So
Right.
very important.
Yeah. Kwame, did you have a follow-up? I thought you were about to say something.
Escaped my mind, but I'm curious about I know you said we talked briefly about there being like a second hour bill around so I've heard different things around that. Some people say, it's gonna be from 33 up to kind of 161 area, so it's gonna go further, like connect all on the other side by Dublin. I know you mentioned they're just expanding somewhere else. It's not gonna be like an actual.
Yeah. No, it is. It's a bigger ring. When as a kid, when I grew up, we lived in the south part of Westerville, and now we've seen people continue to keep growing out. And the people that were in outer areas now are coming in. So all of that's now connecting, which is now making Central Ohio, where now the suburbs of Central Ohio are going to be, the Johnstowns of the area, the Delawares, the Sunburys, the Mount Vernons, all that's going to be suburbs of Columbus, Newark. I mean, good Lord, it's not that far away now. 161, you drive out, you can get to Granville in about 10 minutes without traffic. But it's definitely amazing to see what's going to happen. But what Intel has promised and what they're going to hopefully build in time. And if you haven't been down to Washington Courthouse to see what the battery factory is going to be about, you need to take a drive. Go take a drive and start looking down to the left-hand side as you go towards Cincinnati, and you'll see these big old cranes and big old building coming up out of the ground. That is a big piece of this puzzle, big piece. So, and then Honda's the same thing too. Honda is a part of the battery factory. So what's happening is their partnership that they have, they didn't want to disrupt the labor that was going to be moving around Honda. So that's why they built the battery factory in Washington Courthouse, so that they then could absorb and get the people out of Wilmington, Cincinnati, northern part of Cincinnati, Dayton, Ohio. All that now plays into Springfield. I mean, all that plays into this stuff too. So now you can recruit and find good talent in all those cities, which is pretty cool. So, there's probably other cities around the United States that have done this too, but Central Ohio is a little slow to the party, but we're going to catch up pretty freaking fast.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, it's coming, baby. It's coming. It's here. It's already here. So yes. You look at an apartment complex and you build something and it takes the first couple of years to fill it, which is what you guys are talking about and stuff. And then after you fill it and get that stuff set up and you get it in right harmony with everything, that year 3, 4, 5, and 6 are huge. And now you got a hedge fund that'll come in and buy that baby. That's what they do. That's what they want. They want positive cash flow coming in. So as an investor, if you're in it for about, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you're going to be okay with this stuff. Not a bad deal. But I also think that you can invest in other stuff that I talked about tonight already that can be a part of this. There's a lot more that's involved, because we need, 55 and older people. Let me take that example. Okay. That person today that's been in Central Ohio and been around here, they spend 6 months of their life someplace else. They're in Arizona, they're in Florida, they're in Texas, they're in warmer climates in the 6 months of the year. And then they have some type of place to live in Central Ohio too, whether it's a condo or whatever it might be, rent to own kind of deal. So that's another part of this puzzle that we have to take in equation, and that's a big part of this population long term for us. That has to be that. And they want to be around the grandkids. The grandkids are still in Ohio. So as soon as Christmas is over with and we've opened up our presents and everything else, we're gone. See ya. I'm down somewhere where it's warm, at least till March or April.
So
Sometimes
do you
longer.
think that'd be an uprise in more luxury 55 and plus communities?
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
You look at the patio homes that are being built, around Central Ohio, like what Rummindell and Hughes builds today. Those are 8, 9, and $1 million, and that's what they want. And they've got money because they've absorbed it for many years. They're selling a $600,000 to $700,000 house and they're rolling it into something like that, or they're taking their equity that they have and they're going down to Florida and picking up something too, and they're trying to find a dual places to live for their life. And so then they're back up here with the grandkids in that spring, summer and partial fall, and they're gone out of here, baby. So it's
What about like the middle class seniors? You think that'll have a play in that too?
Yeah, they'll start to play into that as time right now, but they're still trying to make their money and their wealth as time goes on. So it's going to take them a little bit longer time. That's just a part of the puzzle right now. But properties have increased between $150,000 to $300,000.
Okay.
In Central Ohio alone in the last 5 to 7 years, easily. Some cases even more, depending on where you start out at.
I wanted to ask you a question. I asked you this a couple of days ago, and there's some great information. We all know that Intel has laid off around 20,000 people, and
Yep.
I asked you about that. How do you think that would impact the Intel project out here in Columbus?
Intel is a very smart company, okay, number one. Number two is they have other areas of the United States that they're probably going to encourage people to come to Central Ohio for, because it's a little bit probably cheaper to live here than it is there, right? So they can drop that kind of circumstance there with the hopes that those people will move because they kind of know what that project's already about. They've been there or whatever it might be. And then they move to Central Ohio as it gets built here. So it's a domino game. And as a business like they are, you've got to decrease your expenses, okay, to increase your income. And that's what they're doing. That's why they built Intel's factory, for the most part, that they're talking about. To give you an idea, if you take Chandler, Arizona, it took 30 years to develop Chandler, Arizona. And one of the ladies speaks about all this stuff. And she's really good at what she talks about. What you're going to find is what took 30 years in Chandler might only take us less than 10 to 15 years, half that time. So what's going to be for us, that has to be developed. The other part that plays into Intel and the chip manufacturing, because it's now part of the cars and everything else that you see, and a lot of other things too as well. Now you can take the chip from, Licking County, that's where it is, Licking County, and that baby can be sent and pushed and gone and out to somebody else on the East Coast in 8 hours. And I can deliver that same sucker to the West Coast towards Mississippi River. So 70% of the population of the United States lives between the Mississippi River to the East Coast. That's a lot of people, So they're smart, believe me, in this process. But they need guys like the battery factory. To have an electric vehicle or a hybrid or whatever it might be, you've got to develop that part to make that sense. I really feel that the automobile industry in time will be probably more of a combination of both oil and battery, each hybrids. Yep. That's what I think the future is going to be. And I think Central Ohio is poised for that big time. Don't know that for a fact. It's just my opinion. But why is Honda doing a battery factory in Washington Courthouse? Who's connected with Intel on the east side of town?
Location.
Yeah. And I can hit 70% of the United States within, 8 hours left and 8 hours right and 8 hours north and 8 hours south. Yeah, baby. I'm in, baby.
Is that something you read somewhere? Or is that just like interest that you're
my life, I've been blessed. Okay. My father and grandfather were in the trucking business. Okay. I learned this as a kid. I was like sophomore, junior, senior in high school. Okay. My dad worked for my grandfather, and I learned that business on transportation and logistics, or whatever you want to call it to be. It was trucking, baby. It was trucking.
Yeah.
So I learned my grandfather had 14 different carrier lines that he was working with at the time I was a kid at that age. So I learned all about Central Ohio and what it could do and how you could truck products from this point to that point, and it was a pretty cool thing. I worked for Schottenstein's, a company for them too. They taught me a lot of that stuff too. So I've had a very good background in a lot of different things that led me up. I worked for Kraft. Kraft was bought by Philip Morris for $13 billion cash. Boom, we got you, because we're diversifying. That was the same thing. They wanted to own more than 30 or 40% of the grocery store business back then. Philip Morris did, and they had a ton of cash to do it, and they needed to because of what's going on with antitrust and those kind of things. Smart company, smart to buy Kraft. Bought General Foods before they bought Kraft. Spent probably $8 or $9 billion on it. So they really were in a position, and I worked for one of those pieces at the time. So again, my background, and now that my education has gone through this, I got into real estate thinking, I'm just going to go sell houses and do all this kind of stuff. I'm like, man, I didn't even have any clue until I started looking and started connecting the dots.
Okay.
And that's where you start to look at guys like Matt and those guys who've been doing land development for 25 years and the stuff that they know and what they're capable of sharing and sitting down with you and helping an investor understand this. Man, within an hour's time, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is go. We go time. This is go, go, go. Make this happen. And because they know what they're doing. They're one of the few that understands how to do all this kind of stuff. And it takes a lot of testing and fortitude to make it through. You've got to have things. You can't go at a project not knowing there's an end game at the end of this.
Right.
So if I'm an investor, I'm putting blank dollars down, I got to make sure I got an end game. I'm going to know what my money's going to be, and I'm going to know what it's going to value-wise when I'm all said and done. Can these guys deliver this? And they can. Right. And I've seen them do it time and time and time again. So, but we need more land and we need more projects. And, that's what we're trying to find out now. And we need investors to invest in it too, because that's what it takes. It takes money to make this happen.
So I do have another question. So what are the communities, saying as far as wanting to sell more land? Like how the suburb communities?
The areas, like the Ashlands of the world and Circlevilles and all that kind of stuff you talk about. Yeah, they're wide open. They've had utilities. They've got everything. They just need builders to come and build. Please come. Please come.
Okay.
We'll do this. I mean, we're in areas of, Dayton and Cincinnati and other locations that we're working on too to make that kind of stuff happen. These guys are very poised. They understand that part. They go meet with the right people that have to be involved in this. You're dealing with a lot of people from engineers to water treatment stuff and all that kind of junk is all in that, man. It's big time.
So you guys are everywhere in the Ohio area?
Yeah, well, at least for the part. We don't do up in Cleveland right now. We're not into Toledo. We're basically Dayton, Cincinnati, and Central Ohio. That's plenty enough for those three to mess with for right now. And I think as time goes on for us, I don't think they're ready for that yet, but they're building a template to make all this kind of stuff happen for other people who want to get involved in it down the road and understand it. So they're pretty smart. I mean, they're very smart at what they do. And you go to their office and you meet with them, they have everybody lined up. They've got the engineer people, they've got the people to draw the drawings, they've got the planning people, they got everybody. Okay. They can just go down the hall and say, hey, such and such, we need you to do blah, blah, blah. They got that. Okay. Our job is to go find the property, find the land that makes sense. And there's going to be some opportunities where commercial kind of plays into this too, because there's again a big factor involved. There's also, and this is my opinion, this is not theirs, this is my opinion, I think there's going to be a change of zoning in a lot of this stuff that was supposed to be set up for industrial. It's now going to have to be residential. Sorry. We need land, baby. We need to put houses in. We got enough industrial in that area. Let's change some of this around. So now they're sitting down and going through those templates with some of those people to make that happen. That's what you need: clear cooperation. We've heard that word by many people: clear cooperation and communication to make that happen. You got to get them all at the table. You got to sit down in different parts and meetings and go through this. But, they have done this. They've done a lot of cool things. They built, like I said, Jerome Village was one of the ones they did. They did custom houses in Highland, built Woodland Hall, Woodland Glen. They've done a ton of those kind of projects all over Central Ohio. And now we're in these other areas doing these planned urban developments. And multifamily plays big time into this because it is the first time home buyer. I hate to tell you right now, but it is, because it's just, they're just not, they don't have that commitment level to stay in a job for, more than 2-3 years. If you're good, you got good, good background or whatever you have, and you're pretty specialized what they want, you got headhunters looking at you to take you from that job to the next job. And I've seen it a number of times in resumes. It's 2-3 years here, 2-3 years here, 2-3 years here, boom, 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 until they finally figure out what they really want to do long term. And that's okay, but that's it. So those people can't make a commitment when they know they're going to stay, 3 to 7 years in a house. That's when you really gain a lot of equity in a property. You really do. It has been like that for years. And that has not, it'll never change right now. So that commitment is hard for people to make, quite honestly.
All right.
But
We have time for about one more question.
Yep. Hit me.
Kwame or Xavier?
I kind of wrote this one down. What advice would you give a first-time investor who is looking to capitalize on the current rental market?
I think you got to have a game plan. You got to sit down and have a game plan of what's your time frame with the money that you're putting out. So talk about it. How long is that going to take? I'm always a planning kind of person. I've been like that my whole entire life. So sit down and chat with it and see what makes sense. You're going to make good returns, but you have to be patient with it too. It's not an overnight success type of deal. It's just not going to happen. That's not how this is done. And sometimes you do a multifamily investment, to give you an idea, it takes a couple years. After you take 2 years to take ground and build it, okay, you've then got 2 more years to get it filled, right? Then year 3, 4, and 5 are when you're starting to really flourish and having it really go. That's the time that you want to then take the time as an investor and say, I'm done. I'm out. Give me my money. And hedge fund groups will come and buy those projects if they're that profitable. And that's what it takes. And I don't see that to change for quite a while. I really don't. You're also going to see people probably looking at other sources like I gave you tonight on other choices that can be a part of that too, because that's just one factor, one piece of the puzzle that steps into all this stuff too. We need all these other things. The empty nester condo mark is huge. I mean, it's big. It's you can't build them fast enough. You cannot build them fast enough. Why did in Epcon, he used to build fourplex? We call it fourplex, garages touching each other with people on the outside. They're now going to single units for the most part, separated from the next guy next to them, because they did enough research to find out, hey, I don't want to have to live that tight to somebody. Okay. So that's what's happening with people that have that kind of money. So Epcon has their own little, trademark in what they do. They've got projects that they put together, and that's what they found out makes sense. And they only build 3 or 4 units. It's only certain styles. That's all you got, man. It's this one down, the other one, you put a little changes in. That's all they need to do. I mean, kind of like King's. King's does one heck of a job on just chicken tenders. I mean, they kill it. Dude, I'm telling you, you don't need a menu that's got 9 million choices. You might have choices for what they like to put in it, but hey, this is what we got. So it's pretty easy. It's kind of like, Neapolitan ice cream, just strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla. If you want anything else added on to it, go ahead, baby. But that's what they do, and they're smart. And I think as time goes on, we've got to have projects that have planned urban developments so that everybody flourishes. And then you have people that come in to hit all 3 of those different categories: the first-time home buyer, the second and third-time home buyer, and then finally the empty nester condo person too, who's only going to be here for 6 months. And 6 months, I'm in someplace warmer for a period of time. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah.
These guys are good at what they do. I've been very blessed to go through this process with them and learn more about it. And I think as time goes on, I think it's the next 10 years with where we're headed. There's still going to be, new homes to be built and all that kind of stuff in their own communities. But if you really want to be successful, some of the best communities that we ever had in real estate, there was multiple builders in one subdivision. So it was a guy like Pizzuti who had the development of the land. That makes any kind of sense. And then he would go with 3 different builders who would then do lotteries. And there would be a model for each one of those 3 Okay. And then they would sell off so many lots, each one of them. They all had a third of them. Those are probably the most successful subdivisions in Central Ohio today. That has been. And people like them because it's a variety. Cool. Yeah. And that's what people want. So, there's going to be infill. That's what Columbus has done right now for the last few years, is what I call infill stuff that's been done, that 10 to 15, 20 acres. There's one being done right now that Pulte's doing that was down by Otterbein College. It sat there for 13 acres. Man, they sat on that 13 acres forever. And finally, Pulte decided to step up and pay the money, and now they're going to build these townhomes. And they're $400,000 plus for a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom with a 2-car garage. And quite honestly, most of the apartment stuff that's being done, they want the 2 to 3 bedroom apartments, and they're going to take one of the bedrooms and make it an office, because a flex working environment where they work out of their house maybe a couple days out of the week, and the other 3 that they have to go to the job.
Right.
So that's why, if you're going to do a multifamily project, the 2 and 3 bedroom units are by far the best things that you can build, because it's a big demand for people too. And quite honestly, you might need a roommate or 2 to pay for the cost of it for a period of time until you can get that done. But that's, again, flexibility, as opposed to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath type of deal, which you see in New York and Los Angeles and the big cities.
Right.
And it's awesome. It's wonderful to have that in parts of Columbus too, but we need the other ones to make sense. And that's what they should be building.
COVID has certainly changed a lot of things when it came to the hybrid workspace.
It has.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to end it. Jeff, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you everyone for being here. That's going to be it for us at the Elash Apartment Connection. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you very much. Take care.